And today, I'm going to talk to you about money. Quite a weird theme that I talk about, right? I normally don't talk about money. Well, but this time, I'm going to talk about the history and the future of money. So, at the beginning, there was trade, and maybe even plunger, because that was the most efficient form of work. When you didn't want to work, you just took the stuff that you wanted from the one that had it, the one that had worked to get it. That's plunger, and that's what we see very common nowadays. That's what governments do. They plunger a lot. So after trade, then they realized that it was difficult to exchange without money, without a means of exchange. Because if I wanted to get meat from a neighbor, and from somebody I knew that he had meat, and I had pieces of leather, or I had eggs, and I go to this person, I tell him, I want to get some of your meat, but I have leather and I have eggs. And he could tell me, well, but I have plenty of that. In the other hand, I need some salt. Yeah, but I don't have salt. So that's when money came around. Because when money was invented, it doesn't matter that I didn't have what the other guy needed. Because if I would give him something that everybody else would accept for exchange, then I could get the meat from him, give him this money, and then he could use the money to go and talk to somebody else that had salt, and he could get his salt and give him the money, or some of the money that I gave him. And there have been a lot of types of money that have been used. There have been metals like copper, iron, lead, precious metals, and also there were some shells, and leather was used also, and even some live animals. So money was evolving, and then came the use of gold and silver as money, that it has been for the longest use of money, and is still accepted as money. But with gold, something happened, that the goldsmiths, the ones that would work in gold, they started to offer storage and safeguarding of the gold of other people. And they gave some receipts for those people to come back and claim their gold. And they realized that these people that own gold didn't come at the same time to claim their gold, and sometimes didn't come very frequently. So they found that if they could make up some receipts and negotiate them, lend them to some people, that so they could say that they would have the gold with the goldsmith based on those receipts, then they were able to increase the revenue that they were getting. And it was because the real owners of the gold were not coming frequently or even at the same time to claim their gold. And that's where fractional reserve banking was born. And that is, as you can understand it, is a fraud. But that's what we have nowadays. But the problem with that is that creates good money and bad money. So what's good money? Good money is money that has intrinsic value, like gold and silver. So most everybody appreciates gold and silver because it's accepted by other people and it has many uses. But the bad money, like the fiat currency, that is not really more desirable than the gold and the silver. So if both of them were circulating at the same time as an accepted means of transacting, then people would really spend their fiat currency, their paper, and hoard the metals, the precious metals. So that's what there is a saying that the good money drives out the bad money, and that's what happens. That's why money should be good money. Money should have intrinsic value. And what's going to happen in the future, because several years ago, maybe around 15 or 20 years, I didn't check exactly, but cryptocurrencies started to come around, and it started with the creation of Bitcoin. And this is a type of money that is digital. It is not in physical form like the paper bill or like the gold and silver coins and bars, but it does have a place in our society because our society is becoming very virtual, very digital. So it does have value as long as many people accept it as a means of exchange, and a lot of people are starting to use it and to accept it as a means of exchange, but not enough. So that's why the volatility, because only few people in proportion to the whole world that uses paper money, the virtual money, the digital coins are really accepted by very few people. But it has a place, like I say, and it guarantees that transparency, because the blockchain was created along it, and the blockchain is a system of being able to keep track of transactions, and is based on computers that are in hands of the people. So people basically control the digital money, and that's one of the reasons governments and banksters hate that, because banksters want to continue their reign of using fiat currency, where they can use fractional reserve banking and keep running a fraudulent system that is accepted by the government, because the banksters make easy that the governments have money to spend in all their projects to earn the votes and keep in power. So that's why, since they cannot control cryptocurrencies because they are in hands of the people based on those computers that keep track of the blockchain, then they don't like that. And there's something else. They're coming up with their own money that they say that is better, because they say that the centralized coins, the normal cryptocurrencies that are in the hands of the people, that they are backed by nothing. When I read that in an paper from the Bank of England, I was laughing, because then I asked, but what is backed by anything? The dollar, the pound, or the sterling pound, or the franc, or the mark, or the yuan? Nothing. None of those currencies are backed by anything. The only reason they work is because they are fiat money. Fiat means by enforcement. So we are enforced to use fiat currency, the dollar, for the payment of debt and taxes. But the dollar is backed by nothing. The same with the rest of cryptocurrencies. Another reason the dollar is used in the whole world is because after the Second World War, there was a meeting at Bretton Woods where, realizing that all the industrialized countries in the world were basically destroyed because the Second World War was taking place in Europe and Asia, and so it was in France, in Germany, in Italy, in Russia, in China, in Japan, in the Isles of Indonesia. So it was everywhere but in the United States. So the United States participated of the war, but with money and, unfortunately, a lot of soldiers. But the infrastructure of the United States were not affected because the war was in a different continent. So in Bretton Woods, it was decided that since the United States, which was the most prosperous country at the time, circa 1945, then they accepted that the dollar could be used as the international monetary system. And at the time was backed by gold. And it was used also to purchase petroleum, to purchase oil by everybody. So that made the dollar extremely powerful, and the United States the great beneficiary of it. But since good money beats or get rid of bad money, the countries in the world started to claim gold instead of paper dollars. They were asking, no, I don't want paper. I got a lot of paper. I just want gold for these papers that I'm sending you. That's what governments like France, I remember it was President Charles de Gaulle, the last one that made that request, take your paper and give me gold. And so the United States realized that they were getting very low in their reserves of gold. So there was a point when Richard Nixon, in August 15, 1971, he came out on TV and he said, from today on, gold and silver are not linked anymore. So the dollar from now on is not backed by any gold at all. It will only be backed by the good faith and credit of the United States of America. And since then, that good credit started to become bananas, because they started printing so much money that now we are the biggest debtor after being the biggest creditor in the world. Now we are the biggest debtor and in trouble, and even with the possibility to relinquish in our debt. So I wanted to tell you about the story of money because it's interesting. But before I finish, I gotta tell you that the central bank digital coin, also known as CBD, it is extremely dangerous. That's one of the reasons why the banksters want to get rid of cash, because with cash they cannot control what people do. They know that somebody withdraws $50,000, $100,000 in cash from the bank, but they don't know what that person is doing with that money. They don't know that he's using that money to buy some cows, or he's using that money to go on vacation and pay his expenses with cash. They don't know that this person is buying real estate because the owner of that real estate wanted cash to not have to deal with banks. But they say that everybody that deals with cash in a high amount is a criminal, because only the drug dealers and criminals use a lot of cash. And yes, drug lords have used a lot of cash, because if they use credit cards or checks, they were caught immediately. So that's where the danger is, that banks and government have immediate access to our information on credit cards and checks. But a central bank digital coin is even going to be more dangerous, because with a central bank digital coin, there's no way that you or me can make a $50,000 withdrawal and go and spend it on whatever we want without the bank and the government knowing what we're doing. You know what happened in Canada, right? In Canada, the truckers made a convoy because they were tired of the mandates of the Canadian government, and they made this convoy, and they went and sat in Ottawa and parked there and didn't move and blocked the city. The government sent police, sent officers on horses that ran over elderly people. They arrested a lot of the truckers, since the truckers wanted to stay as long as they could, but if they were not working, they couldn't keep too long. Then somebody devised a crowdfunding, and people started sending money to help them stay for a longer time, making their protest more visible to the government and the world. And what did the government did? The government of Canada canceled the accounts of the people, or closed the accounts of the people that helped the convoy. And how could this happen? Because governments are extremely powerful, and they did something that is illegal, but they closed the accounts of these people. And you probably understand, what are you going to do when you don't have access to any money? So that will happen a lot easier with a programmable digital coin from a central bank. When the central bank is the one that programs that coin and issue it and know exactly who is doing what with those coins, is the end of privacy and is the end of liberty. So I urge you a couple of things. Use cash as much as you can, because with cash you have privacy, and it will make it more difficult for the government to eliminate cash. Embrace cryptocurrencies, because cryptocurrencies is another way to make it difficult for the banksters and the government to eliminate the decentralized digital coins that are in the hands of the people. And third, resist central bank digital coins. Resist CBDC, because it will be end of our privacy and our liberty. If you want to talk about some of this with me about the central bank digital coin, or perhaps I didn't talk today about that, perhaps the use of the infinite banking concept in your business or your family, which allows you to grow capital in a private way and with real compounded interest and with access to money, no questions asked, and you being totally in control, then contact me at jorgeeherrera.com. jorgeeherrera.com. Talk to you next time.